All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. Quick update here. Earnings came out for Micron Technology, ticker symbol MU, listed here on the NASDAQ. 95.77 on the close, up 177, about 1.9%. Stock after hours running right now, up about 13 points, roughly 13 and a third percent. 108 and a half right now after hours. And the company obviously beat earnings yet again, posting EPS 118, estimates 111. Nice beat there by about 6%. And we can see on the revenue side, 7.75 billion. Estimates were 7.64 billion, beating by a touch over 100 mil, or roughly 1 and a third percent. So the company does keep rocking and rolling. We said this last time, right? We said that they, for the most part, are consistently beating EPS. They're consistently beating revenue expectations. Guidance is usually in line or raised. And even last quarter, when we looked at them, when they reported these earnings, we did an update. The stock was down instead of up on a nice beat here. Stock dropped, I think it was like 5.5% when we did that update vid. And I spoke about these two trend lines, and you can see that we dropped below the trend line after earnings, and then we just completely flattened out really for about, looks like about 2 weeks. And then we started to drop down, rejecting off the 20-day. We gapped down, and we came right down to this lower trend line that I drew out again just to, where was this? This was, yeah, like the third week of October 23, connecting to that bottom right there, third week of February 24. And I said that if they want to continue to sell it off, you could see a drop down to this trend line. Look like, yeah, like 106, 107. And now, granted, I can appreciate the fact that the stock ended up breaking even further and dropped down into the 80s. But you can see how, look, right here, it had the flash drop below this trend line, and then it bounced and got back above it. And then you can see this candle here retest the trend line, had a bounce, retest the trend line, flash break, flash pop, retest the trend line, right? Opens, basically runs up to the trend line, and then rejects and starts to drop down even lower. So again, this is why, of course, trading is so difficult, because in the short term, sometimes it's hard to determine exactly how high or how low a stock will go. But we saw, again, that if they wanted to pull it back, this is why I like to use trend lines and look at some of these pivot points, because we can see that if it does reject and decide to remain bearish here, 130, 127, then we know that we may continue to sell off, and we can go as low as at least 107 here to this trend line, and we might be able to play that move in the short term. And then maybe if you want, you can step in and just kind of try to predict that bounce. But again, you have to take it day by day, and this is why tech analysis is a pain, because sometimes you see things setting up and then it doesn't work out. So, we live and we learn, so to speak, right? That's what we say. But anyway, stock ended up dropping down into about the 86s, no, 85s it looks like, potential double bottom here. And then we started running up. And I said, let me see now, because I may have mentioned something about MU in the Discord. Okay, yesterday I said that MU got above this resistance trend line, right? We drew this out last time as well. This was our resistance trend line, as you see, going back to June 20th, 2024, connecting to the high right there of about August 22nd, 24, cutting down across. That was the level it was rejecting and continuing downward off of. And then you can see that just the other day we got up above that trend line and actually closed above it. And then we were up even a little bit more today on anticipation of these earnings coming out after hours, which obviously sent the stock higher. But now, after getting up here, now, in my opinion, you have to go back and you have to look at previous levels, right? So the stock's back 107, 108, basically back to that trend line key level. And now, if we extend this trend line, right, you're looking at 120. So in my opinion, that's where the stock's going, 120. Also back down to that bottom right there. But will most likely get even above that trend line and continue up for that gap fill before we really started to sell off, maybe about 127 and a half. So this stock, in my opinion, easily going back to probably 120 to 130 in the shorter term off of this news. And really good quarter, and they should go higher. Swings to fiscal Q4 earnings. Revenue rises. 118, swinging from a loss of 107 a year earlier. Phenomenal turnaround. 7.75 billion, up from about 4 billion a year earlier. So the rise in demand of AI, as they stated for the last couple of quarters, is coming to fruition. And I know we mentioned, we looked at what one analyst said, and he was talking about the future growth that the company is going to see over the next year or two. And we can see that, again, that is basically coming to fruition. I mean, revenue basically doubled, as we saw, 4 billion up to 775 billion just over the last year. So Micron is definitely getting tapped for this AI demand, and it should continue moving forward. Expects fiscal Q1 non-GAAP earnings per share 174 plus or minus 8 cents. Revenue of 8.7 billion now we're up to, guiding for next quarter plus or minus 2 billion. Could be as low as 8.5 billion, that means. Analysts expect EPS 154, so it looks like the profitability is going to beat right now on this current guidance on revenue of 8.21 billion. So I know we're plus or minus 200 mil, but if we do happen to post 8.7 billion next quarter, that's roughly $500 million above what analysts were previously expecting. And even with these estimates, again, jumping up to whatever, 7.6 billion, they post 7.7. Now they thought 8.2, and they're looking at 8.6, 8.7 billion now. I mean, that is very impressive. And I know we looked at the fair value last time. I think the stock was trading about like 3-ish times fair value. And again, while we can look at certain metrics, which you could make the argument that it's overvalued, you know, at the end of the day, the market is following the growth and the demand, specifically when it comes with AI. And right now, it seems like MU is just rocking and rolling. So, in my opinion, you just have to ride that wave. Stock soars. Cited AI demand, of course, posting better than expected results. Issuing guidance ahead of Wall Street expectations. Cited robust AI demand as helping sales of chips for data centers. Overall revenue nearly doubled from a year ago. Yep. Momentum is expected to continue in the current quarter, where the company said it expects both revenue and adjusted earnings to come in ahead of analyst views. We are entering, quote, fiscal 25 with the best competitive positioning in Micron's history. Profit rose to 887 million, 79 cents a share from a loss of 143 a year earlier. Okay. Micron, strong guidance. Very nice. So now, again, you may have to... Hold on, let me just see. AI demand, quote, drove a strong ramp of our data center DRAM products and our industry-leading high bandwidth memory. Fantastic. Calls for revenue to hit a new record in the ongoing quarter. Post, quote, a substantial revenue record with significantly improved profitability in fiscal 25. So now this year is going to be even better than last year. And I think Micron is well positioned. Because again, we could always make the argument, again, with the market going up and up, you can always make an argument that this stock could sell off, that stock could sell off. And of course, we know this, like we always say. Markets have been trending upward for almost a year straight now. We're entering elections soon. And if the market does decide to have any sort of sell-off or correction, 10, 12, 15%, even a company like Micron, who's posting good numbers and increasing guidance, is going to sell off as well. So really, it seems like that's my personal biggest concern when it comes to a lot of these stocks we're looking at. Because I understand the argument. Well, markets continue to go higher. You know, the bulk of companies are beating earnings, coming in above estimates. Yeah, totally understandable, right? Totally understandable. But we did, again, go on a massive run in the market. So that really is the only concern that I personally have, is that even as good as Micron is doing and some of these other companies are reporting, if markets really begin to chunk down, it's probably going to take everything with it across the board. But 93% year-over-year growth on revenue, just phenomenal, really. Absolutely phenomenal. Declared a quarterly cash dividend of 11.5 cents, payable on October 30th. Shareholders on record of October 7th, ex-dividend date, October 7th. Dividend payment date, October 23rd. So, phenomenal quarter here, really, for Micron. And I just want to recheck the numbers real quick. All right, market cap down 106 billion. Look at that EPS, just beautiful, on the up and up. Very nice, right? This was last quarter. We just got this quarter again. What was it? 775. So 4.7, so that's 9, 10.5, 17.3, 24, 25 billion for the year. Brings us almost back to where we were in 21, as we were on the up and up, and then took that big hit in revenue for 23. But technically, again, to close out 23, you can see revenue, even though it dropped, it was sitting at about 15.5 billion. And now to close out this year, we're looking at around 25 billion. So that's why I know 23 was a setback year for Micron, and I know a lot of investors may have jumped ship and they may have just moved into Nvidia or something else, but phenomenal rebound, really, if you think about it. I mean, your revenue takes a 50% hit from 30 to 15, and then the next year you go from 15 to 25 and climb it back up 60%, almost back to where it was. So I think that's pretty impressive. But let's check the forecast actually real quick. Let's see what everyone's talking. See what everyone's saying here. We have a lot of analysts covering this position. 42 analysts. 28 strong buy, 10 buy, 2 giving it a hold, 1 giving it a sell, 1 giving it a strong sell. But the company, as we saw, did just have a nice sell-off and correct back down into the 80s. So that's why I'm saying, in my opinion, might be on the up and up right now. $427 price target? Is this real? We might have to look at that. But as you see, average price target for the most part sitting at about 150. So that's why, after looking at some of the technicals that we did, after coming off a nice quarter like they just posted and increasing guidance for next quarter, in my opinion, just going back up to the 120, 130 level really shouldn't be an issue. And it should happen pretty quickly. EPS has been phenomenal, as we see, beating well over, more times than not here, beating 6 quarters in a row, 6 of the last 7 quarters, and the revenue as well really started to ramp back up. And you can see even moving forward, even though now I know they're saying 8.7, you can see the original estimate sitting here still at 8.27, but even looking forward past that, look at this growth here that we're going to see in revenue. And again, this was a record quarter that we just had here, my apologies. So they're going to continue, right? And you can see almost 9 billion now for 2 quarters from now, technically. And then almost 10 billion, and then almost 11 billion. So this company, again, in the short term, if they post like this quarter's earnings here and they post like 9.6 billion and they miss this mark, you may have a very slight initial pullback, but almost similar to what we're seeing with a company like SoundHound, right? As these companies are in that rebound phase, or if they're still kind of in their state of infancy and they're starting to grow, make a name for themselves, what are you seeing with a company like SoundHound? They're focusing more on the revenue, right? Are they actually signing deals, signing new clients and contracts, and are they coming in above revenue expectations? Because a company like that, if they start to snowball with the consistent revenue growth, that's going to further lead to, that's going to lead to further tightening of losses or potential EPS positivity in the future, right? So that's why something like that, I think they're focusing more on the revenue side. And even something like Micron, though, because they're in this rebound and now coming back from that 2023 revenue drop, citing the big demand moving forward, and of course American-based company, if they even come close to these much higher estimates over the next couple of quarters, I think the stock is going to be more than fine. And I know I just said a lot of words to say a little something, but I think it was all right. But the revenue, you can see, topped out here 30.76 billion in 22, and you can see that 24, again, 25 billion, we basically hit that mark. And 2025 now 37.6 billion. 26, 45 billion. 27, 46.5 billion. So this company, from its best year so far in 2022, just within about the next 2 years, they're going to potentially be posting revenue 50% higher than their biggest year. And again, after dropping revenue by 50%, if they can show this growth really over 25, 26, I think the stock is going to perform very, very well. But again, everyone's pretty much bullish on it. We looked at news updates. We looked at trend lines. Stock right now is here again, in my opinion, back to the trend line, 120, and then potentially filling that gap again about 127.5. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing? What am I doing? Right, okay. So we closed out this year with about 25 billion, market cap 106, but we're up 13%. So now we're at like 120 billion. So we're trading a little over 4 times current annual revenue. With next year's revenue, my apologies, I have to look again. If we look forward to next year again, they're expecting over 37 billion. So now if we look at it, if we're currently at 120 billion market cap and we look forward to the following year and we value this company based on future potential growth in business, now we're sitting at like 3 times this 2025 revenue number. So that's why we could potentially go up to 3.5, 4 times that number. 4 times this number would be about $150 billion market cap, which would be almost 50% higher than where we closed, which would be about 130, like 138, 140, $142 a share. So in my opinion, I think that's where the stock can go to now. And I think that in the short term, again, everybody may have been skittish, maybe because estimates were much higher. They were a little standoffish to see if the company was actually able to beat these numbers, but they did. So now I think that's why the stock is getting so much momentum here after hours, and that's why I think we came down. We came down, kind of formed this W double bottom, right? And now we're gonna boom, rally back up, and that's why I think trend line filling the gap 120, 127 really shouldn't be an issue, and you're probably going to see that pretty soon in my opinion. But stock charts real quick. RSI middle of the road here, 53. That's going to jump up. You can see that technically we're above both of these moving averages now. 200-day 105.22. Stock right now 108. So we're well above this 200-day right now. And our Bollinger Bands, of course, are going to trumpet up and down on this big move. MACD was heading upward going into the earnings, and now it's going to spike up even more. So probably in the short term, you're going to have to keep an eye on that RSI, because as we approach that 70 benchmark, you may have a lot of short-term traders now who played the earnings correct, and then if the stock approaches that level, that's when they might hit the sell button to secure profits, so that they don't get stuck in the big pullback and then obviously give away profits. So you may have some profit taking on that RSI approaching 70. So I'd personally keep an eye on that. But like we said, in the numbers, based on how much we kind of sold off since last quarter and then came back and boom, hit a home run this quarter. Technically, in theory, I mean, you kind of got to retrace and get back to where you were, in my opinion anyway. But we can see mid Bollinger Band on the weekly here, a touch below 113.5. So that would still be like another 5 points, roughly about 4.5% more from this 108 close. Let's just say hypothetically, if that's where we close. But 113 could be the next stop. Again, that trend line about 120, and the 50-day was about $100, and again, we're at 108, so we're above that. The MACD was obviously dropping down hard with the stock. We had the bearish cross. You can see the curling. And because we were up going into earnings and now we have the big pop, you're going to see the flattening and the reversal potentially. And then if we cross the MACD back to the upside, indicating bullish momentum, the stock will probably, if that happens, it'll already be at 113.15, 120. And then if we have the bullish cross, that may be the catalyst to push the stock up to the 130s and the 140s previously. So something to keep an eye on there. RSI on the weekly sitting down here at 44.5, so we still have room to go on the weekly time frame. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Phenomenal quarter again, phenomenal beefed up guidance moving forward, and it looks like 2025 is going to be even better than 2024. And Micron, even though it had the setback, and a lot of people may have thought that they might not be able to pull it out, it seems like they're on the right track, and it seems like we're going to see some record-setting years. And if we back up again, you can see 5-year growth, just phenomenal. Have these nice big run-ups, these corrections. You know, we consolidate and then boom, we explode up. We had a nice pullback there throughout 22. We can see we were trending upward, potentially wedging, but the company really just continued to cite that increase in AI demand and really turned around those revenue numbers that we saw chunk down from 22 to 23. So hats off to Micron, phenomenal report. And of course, congratulations to all shareholders. Well done, guys. But that's it. I'll end it there. Once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky and volatile and uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.